This is TWiT.
E3 was on this week. Really should be a big story. If you're a gamer, it was a big story. It was in L.A.
Sure.
Engadget senior editor Jessica Conditt was there. Hello, Jessica.
Hello.
Did you have fun at E3 this year?
Fun is an interesting way to put it. It was a busy week, though.
Yeah,
sure.
I bet.
Yeah,
we saw all the articles you filed. The way E3, it's funny because Gina Smith, who was the editor-in-chief of Electronic Entertainment Magazine, started E3, Electronic Entertainment Expo, many years ago. And there was a lot more hardware in those days. It was a very different show. These days, it's really trailers for games, isn't it?
Well, especially recently, because after last year, the show is now open to the public. So it's very much more fan-focused than it is industry-focused now, for sure.
Yeah. So there are the press conferences. Can the public go to the press conference?
Yeah, there are definitely ways to get in. They have some fan passes, and they have, some other ways fans can show up.
Not too hard. No. Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, all the big game console manufacturers had their press conferences. Let's go through them one by one. What did Microsoft announce?
Microsoft announced a ton of games. So that was their focus this year. The Xbox really needs games. That's the big thing. So Microsoft delivered. They had 50 titles they showed off, and a bunch of them were, world exclusives or world premieres or console exclusives. And it was a pretty cool show. And one of the big things that Microsoft actually showed off was it just bought a bunch of new studios. So it bought Undead Labs, the maker of State of Decay, Playground Games, the maker of Forza Horizon, Ninja Theory, they did DMC and Hellblade, and Compulsion Games, they did We Happy Few. And then they created a new studio with the dude who was running the new Tomb Raider reboot. That thing's called The Initiative.
So I kind of like this because a lot of great games come out of these studios. Would they be qualified as indies?
Well, not really anymore.
Yeah, definitely not now.
But I presume you get the indie mindset and the creativity and the kind of spirit of an indie studio by joining this.
Not yet another sequel.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Yeah, so these are hopefully new IPs that Microsoft can play with in the future.
Well, Forza Horizon 3 is not something to get too excited about, but okay.
Did Microsoft have any news or information about an upcoming Xbox, whatever their next console is, and how they're setting kind of a path towards that?
Absolutely. So Microsoft actually just came out and said, yeah, we're working on a new console. Of course we are. Why deny it, basically? And they set up the new studios are definitely a play for the next generation, showing players that they're focusing on content in this way. And then they're also setting up a game streaming service that will basically, they say, put console level games on any device like a mobile phone. We've been promised that for a few years, so we'll see.
Yeah, we've also seen companies try and fail, like On Live.
Yeah.
But Sony's doing that too. Sony said, anything that can play Netflix can play our games.
Right, when it bought Gaikai, that was a live streaming service, right? And that was a while ago. But again, PlayStation now hasn't quite lived up to its promises either. So there's some room for improvement on any side in live streaming. Yeah,
it's an interesting idea. I mean, right now, if you're a serious gamer, you don't mind buying a console, or better yet, a gaming PC, because that's the best way to play. But I guess if you could bring these to cheap devices, it might expand the audience.
Absolutely.
The mobile market is huge. So yeah, everyone has a smartphone.
Right.
Why not try to tap into that market? Yeah.
What did Nintendo talk about?
A ton of Smash Brothers, and that's about it.
I'm excited about Smash Brothers. Although I've heard that now they've also got Fortnite now on the Nintendo Switch. I hear it's not very good on the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, so Fortnite on Switch? I mean, from what I've heard, I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet. I just got back from LA, but I've heard it's actually pretty good.
Really? I heard frame rate wasn't great, but maybe that's not something to worry about too much.
Well, if you're gonna go pro with a game like Fortnite, frame rate is very important.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. But I know some Sony people, like some PlayStation players, they were having trouble accessing their accounts on the Switch.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's something Sony has to work on, is this cross-console compatibility. They're losing some favor there for sure.
Are you a Fortniter?
I'm not actually. I've tried. This is like my first. Am I getting too old for this?
You look more like an Overwatch player than a Fortnite.
I totally am. Yeah. I have an Overwatch license plate, so. Yeah.
Oh boy, did I nail that one!
You totally got that one.
What does your license plate say?
It says nerf this. It's Divas Ultimate. Yeah.
Okay, now we know where to look for Jessica.
Nice.
We won't say where you live, okay?
Right.
Just so you get some privacy. How about Sony? What did Sony have to announce?
Okay, so Sony switched it up a little bit this year. Oh no, what was that? Yeah, Sony changed it a little bit this year. They had, instead of like doing a traditional press conference where they had a bunch of executives come out on stage and talk about their plans for the future, they just showed off a bunch of new game footage for some pretty high-profile titles. Started with The Last of Us 2, so we got some new footage there.
I really liked The Last of Us. That was a great game, I thought.
It was. It was, I mean, powerful and emotional, but also terrifying and great gameplay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the new one stars Ellie, and she's on her own kind of just battling through this new world, post-apocalyptic style. Yeah.
Fun. That
looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is another one that looks really, really pretty, and we got new footage there. And also Death Stranding, that's the new Kojima game. And we got a ton of new footage. It looks, I mean, just absolutely gorgeous.
What are you excited about?
Oh, my. There's a ton. But honestly, the coolest thing I saw was probably Cyberpunk 2077. So this is a game from CD Projekt Red, the creators of the Witcher series.
Oh, I love Witcher. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is like, they know what they're doing. They know how to make beautiful, huge open world games. But this one, instead of being fantasy, is sci-fi. It's based off a pen and paper RPG called Cyberpunk 2020.
By the way, this is actual game footage. This is not a cutscene. Wow.
So so they showed off, oh my gosh, they showed off a ton of new gameplay. And I saw like an hour-long demo of this thing. It was live gameplay. It was awesome. It was gorgeous. The story looks rich, and it's in first person, which is new for the studio. It's kind of cool.
Huh. I'm very interested because I'd love to live in a cyberpunk world. I mean, this looks fun.
Yeah.
Is it what kind of gaming is it? Is it a shooter? Is it? It looks like there's some fighting.
So it's a first person RPG. It's kind of blending the first person shooter style with like the big story customization driven thing that CD Projekt Red does with The Witcher.
Nice.
It's going to be a long, deep game. Yeah.
Wow. So if you don't mind, real quick, this show is very today. We've got a lot of stuff on VR and AR and everything, and watching the footage here, like, just makes me kind of jump to that point of like this would be really immersive if it was in VR, which makes me realize it doesn't sound like there was a whole lot of VR announcements from the show. Was there a lot in that regard, or was it a little bit more traditional?
Definitely more traditional. We saw a little bit of VR. I think Bethesda had a few like Wolfenstein and Prey experiences, but yeah, VR is not really catching fire right now.
That interesting.
It's kind of slowed down.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, the Oculus Rift has been out for a while. The Vive's been out. Both have been out for more than a year.
Right.
If you were going to see VR games, this would be the E3 to at least preview these.
Yeah.
And Sony is the console maker with a VR machine.
Right.
They're the only one. And they said nothing. So, I mean, it's just not really on the radar. Yeah.
Well, that sounds to me like they're not selling a lot of them.
Yeah, right.
I'm a Fallout fan. Fallout 76 sounded cool. Tell me about that.
Okay, so this one is a totally new experience for the series. Fallout 76 is going to be online, like, all the time. You can play solo, but the way that developers really want you to play it is online with other people, where like all the characters you run into are actually other people. It's not quite Battle Royale. We expected every game to be Battle Royale this year, just like Fortnite. But it is a push toward a connected experience.
Were there a lot of Battle Royale games?
You know, not as many as we thought. There were definitely a few. Call of Duty talked about it.
Right.
But it wasn't the Battle Royale fest that we thought it would be.
That may be also because it takes a long time to develop a game. You can't just say, oh, Fortnite's big, quick, get something out.
5 months later.
Exactly, yeah.
Although, I think Fortnite looked at PlayerUnknown's Battleground and said, quick, get a Battle Royale version. But they had a great engine to do it, I guess.
They did, and honestly, it's so funny because Fortnite, I mean, before they added Battle Royale, it really wasn't making much of an impact at all. And Battle Royale mode, I mean, it saved that game. Absolutely.
Wow. And I feel bad for PlayerUnknown because bye-bye. I mean, they got completely eclipsed. Speaking of Bethesda, they have put Elder Scrolls is coming out on or is it out on iOS?
I believe it's out already, actually, on mobile devices. If not, it's going to come out soon. But I gave it a spin, and I didn't really like it.
I saw that. I was so bummed. I love Skyrim. I'm a big Elder Scrolls fan.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, if you're a fan of the series, it's fine. It's a fine game to play, especially just on the go in little bursts. But it wasn't anything innovative. The graphics were, okay. The worlds were not really detailed, and the combat was just a bunch of tapping, really.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about. It's hard to move these games to a touch device and have them really be playable.
Totally. Yeah. And this is just something that Bethesda is trying to get out there to get more people just invested in the brand in general. Right. It's not going to be a big new push for them, I don't think.
Right. Jessica, it's great to talk to you. What character do you play on Overwatch?
Oh, a lot of Diva and Orisa and Moira. My ladies.
Orisa and Moira. What can I say? You don't play any guys.
I'll do a Soldier 76 every now and then.
Jessica Conditt is a senior editor at Engadget, writes about all sorts of stuff at Engadget.com, but check out her coverage of E3. It was excellent. That's basically how I followed E3, is by reading your stuff, so I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Nerf this! Take care, Jessica.
Take care, Jessica.
This plate says nerf this. I hope she drives a DeLorean. That's all I can say.